Not everyone who knocks on your door is just stopping by. Some arrive without warning, without fanfare, and without asking for anything big. But if you send them away too quickly, if you dismiss them because they seem unimportant, you might be turning your back on something far bigger than you realize. You see, not all blessings come wrapped in ribbons. Sometimes they show up in the form of people we almost overlook. A quiet visitor, a stranger asking for directions, someone with tired eyes and kind intentions. And in those small, fleeting moments, something powerful is set in motion. You don't need to believe in magic to feel it. The air shifts. Your heart softens. The energy in your home, that hard-to-describe sense of calm or lightness or clarity, starts to return. It's not superstition, it's resonance. In today's world, we move fast. We judge quickly. We've learned to guard our time, our space, our trust. But there are 5 kinds of visitors who carry something different. They don't bring money or opportunity or solutions. What they bring is subtle, but deeply powerful. And if you know how to receive them, not with obligation, not with expectation, but with quiet openness, you may begin to notice things falling into place. A lingering heaviness lifts. A long-blocked path starts to open. A quiet part of you begins to feel alive again. This isn't about being nice for the sake of being polite. It's about recognizing when something good is trying to enter your life, disguised as something ordinary. Because the truth is, your next shift, your next breath of luck, might not come from a job or a check or a sign. It might come from the way you welcome someone who was never supposed to be ignored. Number 1, the spiritual guest, calm, quiet, deeply grounding. You don't expect them. They don't come with noise. They don't wear flowing robes or hold holy books or speak in poetic riddles. In fact, they rarely say much at all. They arrive quietly, often with no agenda, no performance, and no need to be seen. But their presence changes everything. There's a kind of stillness they carry, not the empty kind, but the grounded, anchored kind. The kind that settles a storm without ever touching the wind. And when someone like that steps into your home, even for a moment, your space begins to shift in ways you can't quite explain. You might feel it before you even realize it. The room calms down. The background noise, the buzzing of your thoughts, the clutter of your mood starts to fade. Conversations slow. The air feels softer, lighter. You may suddenly feel like breathing deeper, or listening more, or simply sitting without rushing to fill the silence. This isn't a coincidence. This is energy in motion. It's what happens when someone who has cultivated peace, presence, and quiet integrity walks into a space that's been holding tension, noise, or emotional residue. Maybe this person is a retired pastor who stops by just to say hello. Maybe it's a neighbor who's been meditating for years and drops off a small plant as a gift. Maybe it's someone you barely know who stands at your front door, needing nothing but a moment of warmth. But whoever they are, you'll recognize them, not by what they do, but by how you feel around them. Like something inside you just exhaled. Like the air finally found its rhythm again. The reason this matters goes far beyond politeness or hospitality. When someone like this enters your home, they aren't just crossing a threshold, they're aligning energies. And if your space has been holding grief, anxiety, frustration, or stagnation, even without your conscious awareness, their presence begins to loosen that weight. They don't fix anything. They don't need to. Their energy simply reminds your space and your spirit what balance feels like. It's not showy, it's not mystical, it's just real. You may notice after they leave that your thoughts feel clearer, that a disagreement in the house suddenly feels less urgent, that the clutter you've been ignoring now feels easier to face. Not because they gave you advice, but because they brought clarity without words. That's the power of grounded energy. It's contagious in the best way, and it starts with you choosing to welcome it when it shows up. There's a tendency in modern life to evaluate people by what they offer. Do they have something I need? Will this be worth my time? What do I get out of it? But when someone who carries deep peace comes to your door, those questions are the fastest way to block what's being offered, because what's being offered isn't transactional. It's energetic, it's quiet. It asks for no repayment, and it's easily lost when approached with calculation. If you want to receive the shift they bring, the only thing you need is sincerity. That sincerity doesn't look like a grand welcome or a forced display of spiritual interest. It can be as simple as slowing down, making eye contact, pouring a cup of tea, offering a seat not out of duty but from a place of still presence, letting the moment breathe, creating space, trusting that something sacred doesn't need to be named in order to be felt. And here's the part most people miss. It's not about them. It's about what their presence activates in you. Their visit is a mirror. If you're open, it reflects the version of yourself that's already calmer, wiser, more aligned. But if you rush through the interaction, dismiss their gentleness, or treat them like a fleeting curiosity, you may miss the invitation entirely. And that would be a loss far greater than just a missed conversation. Think back. Has anyone like this ever crossed your path? Someone who didn't impress you with status or charm, but made you feel inexplicably lighter just by being near them. Someone who walked into your space and left it feeling quieter, safer, cleaner somehow. If so, then you've already felt what I'm describing. If not, the next time someone like that arrives, you'll know. And no, it's not about religion. This isn't about belief systems or faith practices. It's about vibration, alignment. The resonance of someone who has learned how to sit in their own discomfort, how to listen without needing to speak, how to walk into a room without needing to own it. They don't come with blessings. They are the blessing, not because of who they are, but because of what their presence awakens in you, in your home, and in your life. You don't have to be perfect to receive this kind of guest. You don't have to have a tidy house or a calm day or a deep understanding of energy. You just need to be present. You need to pause the urgency long enough to notice what's arriving, to feel the shift, to trust the silence, to recognize that not every good thing makes a loud entrance. Your home doesn't need more decoration. It needs more lightness, more breath, more resonance. And sometimes the person who brings that isn't a coach, a healer, or a teacher. They are just a neighbor, a friend, a quiet soul passing through. Your job is not to analyze them. Your job is to make space for what they stir in you. So if one day someone knocks gently, maybe during a moment when you're distracted or stressed or not in the mood, pause, feel the space, sense the shift. If there's something calm about them, something soft and steady, don't overlook it. Sit with it, be with it, because the peace you've been searching for may have just walked through your front door. Number 2, the one who asks for food, not money. They show up when you least expect it, while you're rushing to a Zoom call, folding laundry, or unloading groceries. There's a knock, a figure at the door. Their clothes are worn, maybe dusty. Their voice is quiet, and all they ask is this: do you have something to eat? Not money, not help with bills, not a ride or a favor or a pitch, just food, something small, something human. And in that moment, you face more than a question, you face a test. Not of your wealth or your pantry or your time. A test of your capacity to see the soul inside the request. Because when someone asks for food and not money, they're offering you something few people recognize. A chance to meet them where they are, without judgment, without assumption, without fear. And if you choose to meet them from that place, something rare happens. Not only does your act nourish their body, it awakens something dormant in you. Here's the truth we don't say out loud. Most of us want to be kind, but we're busy, guarded, distracted. We've been warned about scams, drained by requests, made cynical by stories. And so even when the request is simple and sincere, we often respond with distance. A polite no, a quick apology, or worse, a wave of discomfort we're eager to shut down. But what if that moment, just that one moment, was actually a doorway? Not for them, but for you. There's something energetically different about someone who asks for a sandwich, not spare change. Food is primal, essential, symbolic, and offering it, even in its simplest form, taps into one of the oldest human gestures we have, sharing nourishment. Not as charity, not as superiority, but as connection. That connection, even if brief, stirs the energy in your home. It softens walls you didn't know were up. It clears emotional clutter you didn't realize was lingering. And it reminds your space what generosity feels like, not the kind that expects recognition, but the kind that heals in silence. You don't need to cook a 3-course meal. You don't need to ask why they are here or how they got to this point. All you need is a moment of pause, a glass of water, a granola bar, a warm sandwich from yesterday's leftovers. And if you can offer it without calculation, without weighing whether they are worthy of it, you've done something powerful. You've shifted the energy in your home from guarded to open, from tight to expansive, from scarcity to flow. Some people call this karma, others call it grace, but you don't need a name for it to be real. The shift is in the feeling, how your home feels after they leave, a little lighter, a little warmer, as if something good just moved through it. You may notice the atmosphere softening, a call you've been waiting for finally comes through. A conversation you've been dreading flows with ease, or maybe nothing changes outwardly, but you feel changed. And that's enough. But here's the part that's most misunderstood. It's not about the food. It's never about the food. It's about the spirit behind the giving. If you offer something just to feel good about yourself, to prove you're generous, or to earn some future reward, the energy is tainted, transactional, conditional, and that cancels out the quiet magic of the moment. But if you give simply because it's within your capacity, and because you see the humanity in front of you, then the act becomes pure, clean, healing. Think about it. We spend so much of our lives trying to attract abundance, through mindset, through manifestation, through hustle. But sometimes the simplest, fastest way to welcome more is to give from where we are, with what we have, without waiting for a perfect moment. When you give food to someone in need, you don't just fill their hunger. You signal to the universe that your home is a place where life is shared, where needs are met, where kindness lives, and the universe responds to that. It expands what it trusts. Now you might be wondering, but what if I'm being taken advantage of? That fear is valid. Boundaries matter. Safety matters. But not every act of giving has to be a grand invitation. You can hand someone a meal and still hold your line. You can offer compassion without stepping into danger. This isn't about ignoring your instincts. It's about checking whether your fear is louder than your heart, and choosing from a place of awareness, not assumption. If you live in a neighborhood where this rarely happens, it may feel foreign. But even if the knock never comes, you can still live by this principle. Keep a small snack basket by your entryway. Keep extra water bottles near your door. Let your home become a place prepared for grace, not because you expect someone to come, but because you're willing to respond if they do. In a world where so much of our identity is tied to productivity, power, and self-protection, feeding someone feels radical, almost countercultural. But that's precisely why it matters. Because it's one of the few acts left that reconnects us to what truly makes us feel safe, being seen, being cared for, being met with presence. So the next time someone knocks, not with a long story, not with a desperate plea, but with a simple request for food, pause. Not just your body, pause your judgments, pause your assumptions, pause your discomfort, and choose if it feels right, to give something back to life in its most basic form. A piece of bread, a piece of yourself, not because you have to, but because you can. Because in that brief exchange, your home becomes a beacon, a space of warmth, a quiet ripple of kindness in a world that's forgotten how much that still matters. And who knows, maybe that sandwich, that apple, that bowl of soup ends up feeding more than just one person. Maybe it feeds something in you that's been starving for a long time. Your own forgotten connection to grace. Number 3, the one with a gentle presence and no perfume. They don't speak loudly. They don't demand attention. They don't wear expensive clothes or heavy fragrance. But the moment they walk into your space, something changes. You can't quite explain it. The air feels lighter. Your chest feels less tight. The dog stops barking. The plants in the corner seem to stretch toward the light again. And without even trying, this person leaves you wondering, what just shifted? You don't smell perfume, but you notice something else, a kind of freshness, a quiet clarity, like a breeze moving through a stuffy room. It's not about scent, it's about energy. Some people carry a clean vibration, and when they enter your home, that vibration fills the space around them. It isn't flashy. It isn't loud, but it's unmistakable. They don't walk in to be noticed. They walk in and the room notices them. You might know someone like this. They show up with no expectations. They sit down gently. They don't offer advice unless asked. And somehow just being near them makes you feel safer, clearer, more yourself. They're not trying to fix your problems. They're not performing peace. They are peace. Because the life they live, the quiet choices, the stillness, the consistency, the integrity, has created an energy field that affects every space they touch. When someone like this visits your home, their presence isn't just pleasant, it's purifying. It's like opening the windows after a long, gray winter. You may not see what's being cleared, but you feel it. The tension in your shoulders softens. The thoughts that were circling your head suddenly feel less urgent, and long after they leave, the room still holds that clarity. You sleep better, you breathe deeper. You find yourself humming without realizing it. That's not coincidence, that's resonance. There's no doctrine behind this, no belief system you have to subscribe to. It's simply what happens when someone carries clean, steady, intentional energy. Their body may not wear a scent, but their presence leaves a trail of calm. And that calm doesn't just sit in the air, it settles into the walls, the furniture, the tone of the space. Even your pets feel it, they rest more easily. Children get quieter. The TV doesn't need to be on. Noise becomes unnecessary. In a culture that prizes loudness, charisma, and speed, these people are often overlooked. But their impact is lasting. They don't leave advice, they leave clarity. They don't impress, they settle you. And your job, if someone like that enters your space, is simple: make room. Not with grandeur, not with effort, just with presence. Offer a chair, pour a cup of something warm, and let the moment unfold. These visits are never random. They arrive when your home, your life, needs a recalibration. And no, they are not healers or gurus. They might be your cousin who's learned to live slow, a friend who spends time in nature, a neighbor who walks alone every evening, listening to the wind instead of podcasts. The point isn't who they are, it's what they bring out in you. Because when your energy matches theirs, you begin to remember something you forgot. You're allowed to move slower. You're allowed to breathe. You're allowed to come back to center. What they carry is rare in today's world. It's not something you can buy or pretend to have. It's something earned through quiet choices, through emotional honesty, through inner alignment. And when they show up in your home, you don't need to do anything. You just need to feel. To let their presence awaken the parts of you that have been dulled by noise, clutter, or pressure. You may find after they leave that your home feels new again, though nothing changed but the energy. But here's the important part. If you meet this kind of person with indifference, with skepticism, or with distraction, you might miss the gift entirely. These visitors don't push their presence onto anyone. They don't ask for attention, so it's easy to overlook them if you're not paying attention. But if you slow down, if you notice the shift, if you sense what just walked in, then you'll know this wasn't just a visitor. This was a gentle turning point. These are the people who refresh your home without touching a thing, who uplift your mood without saying a word, who carry a kind of invisible light that dusts off whatever heaviness has been hanging in the corners. And that light doesn't fade when they leave. It lingers, it seeps into your space. It opens windows you didn't know were closed. It invites clarity to stay. So if someone like this knocks, don't rush. Don't entertain, just be present. Their visit may be brief, but the shift they leave behind might just last long enough to change something inside you that needed clearing for years. Not every blessing is loud. Some of the most powerful ones enter the room quietly and bring your home back to life without saying a single word. Number 4, the one who shows up in a moment of crisis. They don't knock with confidence. They don't come with a smile. They arrive in a moment that feels inconvenient, messy, uncomfortable. Maybe they just had an accident. Maybe they're scared, lost, or in danger. Maybe their car broke down near your street. Maybe they don't even know why they chose your house. But there they are, shaky, unsure, looking for help. And in that moment, without warning, the universe asks you a quiet question. Are you willing to pause and respond with heart, even when it's not convenient? This kind of visitor doesn't come for conversation. They don't bring warmth. What they carry is raw, unfiltered, often heavy, but within that disruption lies something sacred, because what shows up as chaos may in truth be a call to rise, a test of grace, a shift trying to happen through you. And your response, even if small, holds more power than you think. Here's what most people don't realize. People in crisis are drawn, often subconsciously, to places that feel energetically safe, even if they've never been there before, even if they don't know you. Your home might hold a kind of light they can't name, but their spirit feels it. And when they knock, they're not just asking for water, a phone, or shelter. They're responding to something your space already emits: grounding, presence, safety. Whether or not you see your home that way, they do. And this is where the invitation begins, not to save someone, not to fix the world, but to embody your own readiness for goodness to flow. Because when you open your door to someone in pain, not blindly, not recklessly, but with discernment and compassion, you create a moment that reorders more than just the energy in your house. You reroute something deep in your own life. You activate grace. You don't need to do much. A phone call, a glass of water, a calm voice, a porch to sit on until help arrives. But in that moment, something quiet shifts, not just for them, but for you. Maybe your week starts flowing more easily. Maybe the job you were waiting on suddenly calls back. Maybe your sleep deepens. Maybe a weight you didn't know you were carrying finally lifts. These aren't coincidences. They're aftershocks, tiny ripples of energy moving because something real was offered without condition. And no, this isn't about spiritual performance. You don't get points for being good. You don't do it to be rewarded. You do it because every now and then life gives you a chance to participate in someone else's turning point. And in doing so, you quietly participate in your own. Some people show up needing help, but what they're really doing is waking up the part of you that knows how to give without expectation. And that version of you, that's the one the universe responds to every time. There's a humility to these encounters. You may feel awkward. You may not know what to say. You may be unsure if it's safe. And it's okay to draw boundaries. It's okay to assess the situation and act with care. But don't let fear close the door on your own intuition. Most of the time, your body knows the difference between a threat and a moment that just feels uncomfortable because it stretches your heart. Trust that feeling. Let it guide you. What matters most isn't how much you help, but how willing you are to hold space when it's easier to shut down. Because your willingness leaves an imprint on your space. Homes remember, energy lingers, and when a home becomes a place where crisis was once met with compassion, it holds that vibration. That vibration draws peace, prosperity, balance, not through superstition, but through resonance, through alignment. We often ask for transformation without realizing it might arrive in unrecognizable forms. Sometimes it looks like a miracle. Other times it looks like a person in distress. One isn't more sacred than the other. The only difference is how open we are to receive the moment for what it is, not for what we wish it looked like. And yes, after they leave, you might feel heavy. That's normal. Crisis leaves a trace, but so does kindness. So take a few moments afterward to care for your space. Open the windows, light a candle, sit in silence, breathe. Let the energy settle, let your nervous system reset, and know that something good is moving, even if it hasn't yet arrived in visible form. You may never see that person again. They may never know the full impact of what you offered, but that's not the point. The point is you responded, you showed up for the moment, and in doing so you told the universe something powerful, that you are a safe place for good to land even when it arrives wrapped in discomfort. That's rare, that's magnetic, that matters. So if someone ever shows up shaken, eyes wide, unsure where to go, don't look away too quickly. That may not be a random interruption. It might be the beginning of a blessing, yours or theirs. And you won't know unless you open the door. Number 5, the one with kind eyes and a soft voice. They don't enter a room with confidence or charisma. They don't need to. They walk in with a softness that doesn't demand attention but draws it anyway. Their eyes are steady, not sharp or intense, just clear, gentle. You notice their presence before they speak. And when they do speak, their voice has no rush, no pressure, no need to impress. It's calm, even, measured, like a warm hand on your back, reminding you to slow down. These people don't try to shine, they just are. The kind of person who makes you breathe deeper without realizing it. The kind of guest who doesn't bring gifts, but somehow the room feels full when they arrive. You find yourself leaning in not because they are saying something profound, but because they are something grounding. Their energy says, "You're safe now." And your whole system responds, "Yes, I can exhale." You might know someone like this. A neighbor who always checks in gently. A friend who listens without interrupting. A relative who doesn't say much but whose presence makes holidays easier. Their words don't fix things, but they soften edges. They don't rush your story, but they hold it with quiet grace. They carry no judgment, no agenda, and somehow they remind you of who you are beneath all the noise. When someone like this enters your home, you may not notice the shift right away. But after they leave, the silence they leave behind feels different. It doesn't feel empty. It feels peaceful, still, safe. You sleep deeper. You find yourself speaking more kindly to others. That project you've been avoiding suddenly feels possible. The heaviness lifts, not all at once, but enough for light to slip back in. People with this kind of presence don't come often. They are rare, not because they're special, but because they've cultivated something most of us forget to tend. Inner steadiness. They've lived through their own storms. They've felt their own ache. And instead of letting it harden them, they've let it soften them. Their calm isn't naive, it's earned. Their kindness isn't performative, it's lived. You can't force this energy. You can't manufacture it, but you can recognize it. And when someone like that shows up at your door, don't mistake their softness for smallness. Don't let their humility make you overlook the quiet medicine they bring. This isn't someone dropping by. This is alignment, a moment of energetic harmony between who they are and what your home has been quietly calling in. And if you're receptive, if you meet them with presence, with curiosity, with kindness, you may find that everything starts to flow differently. Relationships ease, old tensions dissolve, conversations deepen, even your own mood softens. This is the effect of resonance. When their calm energy meets your space, it doesn't just visit, it integrates. And no, they don't bring luck like a charm in their pocket. They amplify the goodness already growing inside your life because your frequency matches theirs, and in that match, abundance finds its way in. Like music that finally finds the right key, like a room that finally breathes in sunlight. But here's the part that stings for some. When you meet this kind of person with indifference, when you treat their warmth as ordinary, or let your distractions overpower your presence, you miss more than a nice moment. You miss a doorway, because people with this level of energy rarely stay long. They pass through like a breeze, and if the window's closed, the room stays stale. So if someone ever visits and makes your home feel lighter, calmer, more whole, don't brush it off. Don't hurry them out. Offer them a little more time. Ask a real question. Make space. Because their visit may be more than social. It may be sacred, a moment that doesn't change everything, but realigns something inside you that had quietly drifted. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't something you unwrap. It's someone who walks in and helps you remember your own stillness, your own depth, your own capacity for grace. And when they go, the room stays warm, not because of what they said, but because of who they were and how deeply your home listened. Final, not every visitor brings flowers. Not every guest comes with laughter. Some walk in quietly, some show up in need. Some leave before you've had the chance to fully realize what they offered. But what they all share, if you look closely, is energy. Not in a mystical sense, in a very real, very human sense. Because energy is what we bring into a room before we speak. It's the nervous system's way of sensing safety. It's your heart's way of recognizing resonance, and it's your home's way of either softening or stiffening in response to who enters. Think about it. You felt this before. Someone walks in and suddenly the air feels heavy, or calm, or tight, or peaceful. It's not magic, it's biology. Mirror neurons, nervous system attunement, emotional regulation. It's all part of how we experience energy without needing to explain it. So when we say some guests bring light, we're not speaking in metaphors. We're speaking from a place that's both ancient and scientific. Your body knows the difference, and so does your home. Across these 5 types of visitors, the spiritual guide, the hungry stranger, the quietly radiant presence, the one in crisis, and the soft-spoken soul, what unites them is not what they do, but what they activate in you. Kindness, stillness, openness, compassion. These aren't qualities to perform. They're energies to remember. And when your home becomes a place that welcomes them, gently, wisely, sincerely, it begins to hold that memory in its walls. That's what shifts luck. Not rituals, not trinkets, but alignment. When your home reflects who you are becoming, calmer, clearer, more present, life begins to meet you there, not because you forced it, but because you finally made space for it. So next time someone knocks, don't just listen with your ears. Listen with the room. Feel the energy. And if it's right, open the door.